The Spicer incident at Loch Ness. While Nessie was already the subject of local tales, the idea that the creature occasionally ventured onto land wasn't widely known until the summer of 1933. On July 22nd of that year, Mr. and Mrs. George Spicer, a couple from London on holiday in the Highlands, reported a bizarre encounter while driving between Dores and Foyers. Around 200 yards ahead of them, they noticed a strange grey shape crossing the road. What first appeared to be a trunk-like form was followed by a large, undulating body. Mr. Spicer described the motion as resembling a scenic railway. It was quickly apparent to them that this was a living creature, not debris or shadow. As it moved in a series of jerks and vanished into the undergrowth toward the loch, they watched in stunned silence. When they reached the spot, they noticed the vegetation had been disturbed. Locals would later report that crushed bracken and flattened weeds were a common sign linked to monster sightings. Here's what famed Loch Ness investigator Rupert T. Gould wrote after personally interviewing the Spicers in 1934. In view of the extraordinary nature of what was seen by Mr. and Mrs. Spicer, the creature which they saw was not in the loch at all, but crossed the road in front of their car. A few preliminary remarks may be useful, particularly since the incident originally found its way into print in a rather incorrect form, and with one or two misleading details. On August 4th, 1933, a letter from Mr. Spicer appeared in the Inverness Courier. It stated that on July 22nd, while he was motoring along the east side of Loch Ness, and about halfway between Dores and Foyers, something like a prehistoric animal crossed the road about 50 yards ahead. It seemed to have a long neck, which moved up and down in the manner of a scenic railway, and the body was fairly big, with a high back. He added that its length was from 6 to 8 feet, and that it appeared to be carrying a small lamb or animal of some kind. Like, I imagine, most other readers of this letter, I considered that it was either a pleasantry or a rather unconvincing attempt at a hoax, and I saw no reason, while at Loch Ness, to change that opinion. But on my return, I visited Mr. and Mrs. Spicer and heard their story, and I became, and remain, convinced that it was entirely bona fide, that they had undergone a most unusual experience which had left a lasting and rather unpleasant impression. They were motoring round at Loch Ness in their open 12 HP Austin, having been as far as John O'Groats and back via Inverness. Mr. Spicer was driving, and his wife was in the other front seat. They had passed through Dores and were on their way towards Foyers. He is not certain whether they had passed Whitefield. When, as the car was climbing a slight rise, an extraordinary-looking creature crossed the road ahead of them from left to right in a series of jerks. When on the road, it took up practically the whole width of it. The creature was of a loathsome-looking greyish colour, like a dirty elephant or a rhinoceros. It had a very long and thin neck, which undulated up and down and was contorted into a series of half-hoops. The body was much thicker and moved in a jerking motion. No legs or tail were visible, but in front of the body, near the neck, he saw something flopping up and down, possibly a tail swung round to the far side. The whole creature stood around 4 to 5 feet above the road and looked like a huge snail with a long neck. Later, Gould inspected the scene. The road is some 12 feet wide, with grassy verges and a short slope down to the loch. On the far side is a rising bank, down which the creature must have come. At the point where it crossed, the loch was not visible due to trees. Mr. Spicer heard no splash, but this could have been masked by the car's noise. The grass appeared trampled, and there was a sort of track on the bank leading down to the water. Mrs. Spicer's independent account closely matched her husband's. She initially thought the head and neck resembled a smaller animal, perhaps a young deer, but her husband believed it might have been the tail swinging forward. After having ascertained the width of the road and giving the matter mature thought in every way, I afterwards came to the conclusion that the creature I saw must have been at least 25 feet in length. He compared it to the dinosaur seen in the film King Kong, but noted the creature he saw had no visible legs and a much longer, more flexible neck. The Spicer's claim drew fascination and ridicule in equal measure. It was one thing for Nessie to lurk in the depths of the loch, but quite another for it to be seen crossing a public road in broad daylight. Their account was later bolstered by a similar sighting in January 1934. Arthur Grant, a veterinary student, was riding his motorcycle near the loch at 1 o'clock AM when he almost collided with a strange creature crossing the road. In the moonlight, he reported seeing a small head, long neck, large body, flippers, and a tail. Startled, the animal quickly returned to the water. So what did the Spicers see? Was it truly the Loch Ness Monster? A deer misidentified in a moment of surprise? Or could the whole tale have been a hoax? We may never know the truth.